All right, and welcome back to another episode of Who's Lifting Today. I am here with Jill Parmer, also known as Badass Lifter Jill. Jill, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Hey, Mark. Glad to be here.
Happy to have you. We're going to be talking a little bit about your strength training journey to give people some context. Jill and I have been working together for quite a while now. I think it's been years at this point. I feel like I was the introduction to real strength training for you. Is that fair to say? Not that you weren't active before, but I don't think you were doing any real strength training programming before you and I got together.
No, you were definitely the introduction to the real deal.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's been a great experience, both on my end as the coach. And I wanted you to share your experience because you have a really good story. You didn't necessarily come from, I'll let you speak for yourself, but you didn't come from a super athletic background. Not that you weren't active, but strength training really wasn't your thing. So before we started working together, can you let people know, what were you doing before? What was the activities you were doing before? And what were things that you tried out before you decided to give strength training a try?
Okay. Well, I'm a mom, and so that was my main deal for many, many years. And before that, I'm a product of the 80s and 90s, so I did a lot of aerobics and that kind of thing. Just that was where my mindset is burning a lot of calories and just, jumping around, moving around a lot. And then I had my kids and just played with them, just hiked, skied, walked, just that kind of thing. And as they got older, I really had always wanted to get into a gym that had some machines at least, or I didn't really have the aspirations of dumbbells or barbells, just the machines or whatever. And
sure.
So I think when my kids were nearly out of the house, we had a Planet Fitness open, so I gave that a try, and I stuck to what I knew and stuck with the cardio machines and just pretty much did that and observed and watched what else was going on, and finally started to use the machines and just, without any instruction, just read the little description, maybe looked on Pinterest, just trying
Sure.
to figure out how to use these machines and to make it effective.
And the machines are pretty beginner proof, which is nice because it's you just kind of read the label on the side and you're like, oh, okay, this works this, and then you take care of that. So that makes sense. What got you interested in doing strength training as opposed to other things you do? Because in your 30s and 40s, you weren't really into the strength training stuff. And then here you are, I think you were 52 when we started working together, and then we started going into strength training. What piqued your interest into doing that as opposed to other types of strength training in the past?
Well,
or just training in the past?
I guess just being in that environment in the gym, and I saw women who were actually using the dumbbells and the cables and all those things. And I just thought, it seems like a good idea, but I just didn't know where to start. And I just felt like for my overall health, it was going to be a good idea moving forward. And my mother, she had always been in a gym. I'd never been in a gym with her, but I knew that, she's a strong, badass mama, and she had cancer and she died, but she was extremely strong up until she died. So I guess I had that in mind as well.
You wanted to kind of follow in her footsteps in the sense you wanted to be strong later in life. Is that
yes.
fair to say?
Yes, yeah. For sure.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. And I think that's a good reason to start as well, especially it's never going to hinder you to be strong, right? It's never
right.
you go up later in life and it's not oh, I'm too strong for this. That doesn't really happen. If anything, the opposite happens where if you become too weak for things, that's a very real problem that exists later. And so being strong definitely helps with that as well. Now, I want to talk a little bit about kind of where your strength level is at now. What are the things that you've accomplished since working together? I'm trying to, we've worked so long together at this point. My understanding is that you weren't able to do any pull-ups before we started working together.
I did pull-ups, I thought. they just were pretty much like halfway. I just thought,
Okay.
I thought I was killing it, but I did not have any clue how to actually do a full range of motion pull up.
Yeah, and maybe it like seemed like that at the time, and then I think like you sent me a video, and I think for yourself it was clear that like you weren't really getting that full range of motion or like doing the reps to like the fullest extent, which is like now way better.
Yes.
And now you're doing them like for sets and reps, and like we're gonna try and find ways to make it more difficult for anyone who doesn't follow, who like listens to the podcast but doesn't follow the Instagram. We've shown Jill a bunch of times crushing pull-ups, doing like a really great job. And I think like that's really awesome because pull-ups are a really common goal. A lot of people want to be able to do pull-ups. So it's great to like show yourself someone who's like doing them for reps. I think that's awesome.
Well, it does make you feel confident and like you've really accomplished something for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, not to mention that, like, I think upper body and lower body has improved for sure. If you can mention like some of like the other exercises that like what are you doing, let's say for dumbbell rows now, like if you're going to do like a heavy set of 6, what does that look like for you at this point?
With a row, it's probably like 50. And then, like today,
for like a 1-arm dumbbell row, just to like give some context.
Yes, like the 3-point.
Yeah.
It's like
the dumbbell row.
50 or 55, and then of course I couldn't deadlift whatsoever. So that has been a huge accomplishment for me to be able to see the weight go up on there, and I still have a lot of room for improvement that I want to make, but I think I got.
Well, that's gotten a lot better for sure.
Yeah,
like, and don't sell yourself short there. What was the PR amount that you got recently? It was like heavy sets of 3. I want to say 160.
It was about 155.
155. Yeah, absolutely. And like, I'm excited for you. Like we've talked about like moving you outside of Planet Fitness, that you can start using dumbbells or start using barbells, because like I think Planet Fitness was like a great place for you to start, but I think at this point having access to more like heavier weights and barbells, I think is going to like really help you kind of progress to that next level. So I'm
excited for that challenge because I do not work out well at home. I do have a barbell. I just don't do well at home. I know some people are the opposite of that. And I just don't have a good setup for the barbell that I do have. So
is it the setup that's the challenge for training
at home? It's the setup, because I don't have any kind of a rack. So to try to get the weights on and off is just, makes me lose my mind. So
yeah. And speaking as your trainer, I definitely wouldn't want you to like try and makeshift one. I've heard like stories of people trying to like makeshift squat racks, or like they do kind of like a weird thing with boxes. And like as a trainer, I'm always very worried how like that could go pretty badly. So if you don't have this setup, I would rather you go to the gym.
Right.
So that's
especially since hopefully in the next couple of months I'll have that option at a different gym. We'll see. Hopeful.
Yeah, which is going to be like which is going to be super exciting. Where do you want your journey to go in the future? Because I feel like we've accomplished quite a, you're better at pull-ups now, you're better at deadlifts, you're better at squats. Like you've improved across the board in like upper body, lower body, like absolutely. But what would you, in the future, where would you like your journey to go?
I mean, I just want to continue to get as strong as I possibly can. I mean, if you say you've accomplished everything and you stop right here, I mean, what good does that do?
Sure.
So I definitely want to get to the 200-pound deadlift. I mean, that's been on my radar for the 2 years that we've been together. So inching a little closer. And I want to do better pull-ups for more reps. I mean, if I can do 5 or 6, let's do 10,
Yeah, just keep going.
And since we've been able to work on squats more, I definitely want to see that as the next goal to have in my future, as heavy as that can be. And I have no idea since I've just started with that.
So it's really about like, it's not necessarily like you have like a number in mind. It's more about like, I just want to see how far I can go. Is that
right.
fair to say?
Right.
Okay. And I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I could, I could quit, I guess, and then, it would all go backwards, and why would I do that? So moving forward is the direction I want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have to say as well is that like helping you out, it's truly been a pleasure from like a coach standpoint to train you. Like you're always super optimistic, you give feedback, you're always putting the work in. And so like, and I think like in the time that we've worked together, I feel like you take very little time off from training is like what I've noticed. Is that like or like if the only time you ever take time off is like I'm vacationing for an hour and there's like no gym in sight. Like you're always pretty good about getting your workouts in like the years that I've worked together. So like you've definitely put the work in, you've been consistent and, and it shows. It shows in the training. So I want to congratulate you on that because that's awesome.
But at the same time, I've had a shift in my mind because I used to feel like, I had to be in the gym 6 days a week for 3 hours at a time. And that was just futile.
That's a part-time job right there.
Yeah. Killing myself, just, wearing out my joints and I was a mess until we started training together. And I just feel like now I just have a much better, balanced perspective in my mind. I mean, I'm a habit disciplined person. I'm going to get to the gym. I'm going to do my workouts. And I want to see progress, but at the same time, I'm not allowing it to take over my entire world as I was.
No, and that's good. Yeah, I think that's a really good mindset shift because you're absolutely right. We're like we don't want people going into the gym crushing themselves like every single time. Like that's just people are gonna get hurt. Like rest days are important. You want to make sure that like you're training so that you can see the results you want to see, but it's not all about like how you also have a life outside of the gym too, which I think is good. And then you train pretty much like pretty consistently 4 times a week. How long would you say your workouts take?
I would say between 45 minutes and an hour. I mean, granted, I'm at Planet Fitness. I have a lot of friends there. We're chatting.
You're chatting, yeah.
So I would say hour max, and that's including some social time.
Social time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so it's way better than 6 days a week for 3 hours. That is so long. That's like exhausting.
No wonder
just
I
hearing
can
about
barely
it.
walk. No wonder.
I can't do that. Yeah. I don't train that much. And then good. Yeah. So I think it's like you've, not only have improved like physically with the amount of strength that you have, but you've also improved like mentally, which is great in the mindset shift. I think, and that's super important if you're going to train for long, you've been training for years now in strength training. And I think if you're going to do that, you need the mindset shift, which is because if you go with that previous mindset, maybe you can do that in the short term, but long term, I think it's just unrealistic, unfortunately.
It is. And especially as we age, I mean, our joints are wearing out as it is. And if you put all that extra tension on them in cardio, you're just not going to last.
And strength training can like help with that, but you have to do the strength training and then rest, right? Like that's the important part too. Otherwise you're just stressing out the joints and then your body never adapts. And so it's just more stress as opposed to like in this. Yeah.
And that has been one of the biggest, changes I've seen is that my knees, I don't have any issues whatsoever. And I like to ski and years past that would just, I would have to quit because my knees couldn't hang in there. And then I thought, I couldn't run. And I don't really want to be a big runner, but I did want to do a 5K this year and I was able to train for that. And
you want the option to run though, right?
I want the option to run.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, tell me more about your 5K.
And really, I had not put a lot of training into it because my son got married and I got sick, but I still was able to train and, have a respectable time and make it through it and have a good time. That was the thing. It wasn't a chore. I had a good time. So I decided
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. And you're saying like, what's nice about like the training that you're doing is that's not just like, you're able to like pick up heavy things now, which is like fun in itself. But it's like, it's translating into things outside of the gym. And I think that's super valuable. Like that's something that's like now you can go do things with your kids. You can go skiing. You can go for that 5K if you want to, or spend time with your, whatever, like your children want to do. Like you can join with them. Like there's so much value in that. So I think that's great.
There is.
What's the number one piece of advice? Okay. Someone's listening to this. Woman wants to get into strength training. What advice would you give them to get started?
I mean, I would definitely say just get over the discomfort and intimidation that comes with it, because I certainly was there, and everybody has to start somewhere. And it gets easier. And seriously, hiring a professional, because I tried on my own to make it happen, and I was not getting stronger. I was not, like I say, I was just killing myself basically. So, you can only make it without outside help for so long. And I'm not just trying to be, bodybuilder queen or whatever, but I'm looking 10 years down the road, what state are my muscles and my bones going to be in? And I just feel like as moms, as women, we just don't put ourselves first enough. And I feel like this is definitely an area that you just can't put yourself on a back burner, that you just need to start and not be intimidated.
And when you say discomfort, do you mean like it's uncomfortable being in the weight section originally?
Right.
Is that what you're referring to?
Right.
That,
just feeling like you look stupid, or you don't know what you're doing, and that people are judging you or watching you, or
Yeah.
or that you're going to fail.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think like one thing that I've noticed, like being in the weight room, is that a lot of people have that problem originally, where they're like, what if people, like, I'm doing something and I'm dumb, or like whatever it might be. And I think you get to like your third or fourth workout and you're like, wow, literally no one cares about like my workout.
And I don't care.
At all. Yeah. And you don't care about theirs. And you're all just kind of ignoring each other. And like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think like that's totally something worth sharing, but it's very common, especially once you start lifting, that you kind of feel like you're on a stage almost for something that you're new at. And that's like not always comfortable. So I appreciate you sharing that as well. Yeah, no, listen, this has been great. I appreciate you sharing your journey and like letting people know. Like, it's truly been a pleasure training you. I'm happy to have you on the podcast as well. And I also look forward to seeing where your journey is going to go, because like you keep getting stronger, you keep improving over time. And yeah, I'm just, I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm happy that, we could work together for all this time.
Well, I'm excited too, Mark. It just gives me, something to look forward to every day. I actually enjoy it. I mean, it's not a chore. I enjoy it, and I know it's because I have a plan that works, that, it's about me, and it's not about anybody else in that hour.
That's also, yeah, it's like self-care almost. And like, it's like, and it's not a chore, which I think is good. Like that's, because I think it's one of these things where like, if training is a chore, like how long are we really going to stick with it until you're not. So I think it's good that you're, I've like mentioned this in previous podcasts, but like the people who stick with training, it's not the people who are like the most disciplined or the most motivated. It's the people who like training. Like that's you enjoy going. Those are the ones who actually are able to stick with it long term. So I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. Thanks, Jill. I appreciate having you on the podcast. And thanks everyone else for listening to another episode of Who's Lifting Today.